Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to be looking at blues harmonies that you can add to your playing right away. In fact, by the end of this video, you'll be able to do this. These are super easy to play, and they're even easier to visualize. Once you can visualize them, you know where they're coming from on the fretboard, then they're obviously easy to play. There's nothing technical behind them, but they can make you sound so much better. So we're going to be working towards a standalone composition. I think this will be a fun way to practice these things, and you don't need a jam track for it. That's what's great. You can grab an acoustic or electric guitar, you can sit around the house and you can practice playing these harmonies, and you have a little song that you're kind of working towards. Here's what that sounds like. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half of that, and I'll explain where all the harmonies come from. If you'd like to watch the second half and also download the tab PDF file and also access the on-screen tab viewer, which has the tab and video on the screen at the same time, it's interactive. You can get those extra materials for this lesson by going to activemelody.com and do a search for ML113. Okay, so we're going to take a look at a blues in the key of G. You could do this in any key, by the way. There's no open strings in what we're going to be doing. So if you want to play this in another key, all you have to do is change your starting position. But we're going to be looking at the key of G. So our three chords, if you're playing a blues in the key of G, it would be a G for the 1 chord, a C for the 4 chord, and a D for the 5 chord. So for the G chord, we're going to look at this position. Now I'm playing a G chord using the E shape. That's from the Cage system. We don't have to play that entire bar chord. So the top 3 strings of that is this triad here. And if I break that triad down and we just look at strings 2 and 3, I have this harmonized third here. And that's going to be our starting point. I just wanted you to know where it's coming from. G chord using the E shape, this little triad, okay, it's coming from that. So here's the idea that we're working towards. And what I'm doing is I'm filling the space for where a G chord would be. Instead of me just going like this, or going like this, I'm playing something a little more interesting. It's got some movement, you know, you got the harmonies. And so that's the first idea. And I'm sliding in, I'm going down a half step and coming up to where that would be in that triad. And then, watch this, 5th fret, you're going to bar with your ring finger, strings 2 and 3. So if you're wondering where this is coming from, I think of that as sort of a gospel piano move. And a lot of times on gospel piano, if you're hanging out on a chord, you play that chord and its 4 chord, and you can pivot between those 2 chords. And you hear that in the blues a lot too. That's a G chord going to a C chord. And look at, I'm doing my C chord in that same neighborhood using the A shape. And if I look at strings 2 and 3, that's where that little idea comes from. So you can hear now, that's the 1, there's its 4 chord, and then we go back to the little slide in. All right, so far we have, and then watch this. So when I did this, I'm hitting the top 2 strings out of that triad. That's all it is. And I can do it with 1 finger. Just bar here on the 3rd fret. You can slide into it as well. And then we go back to the 4 chord. And if you listen to what's going on chord-wise, you can hear this. Listen. You can hear it going between the 1 and the 4. 1 and the 4. So that's the first set of ideas, and it all comes off of this E chord shape. Now watch this. Now we're going to jump up to strings 1 and 2, and I'm just going to do that same little bar with on the 3rd fret up to the 5th fret. and then slide into this position. But this is really just the top 2 strings out of my G triad up here. So all I really did was go from this G triad to this one. That's like my D shape. And this note right here, the tip of that triangle, tells you what the name of the chord is. So that's my G note. That's my G chord then. And so I'm just playing strings 1 and 2 though. But I want you to take this idea and don't go any further with it if you're confused by any of this, but just try and get you've already got some really cool harmonies, and you can see it's just coming out of basically this triad and this triad. 2 triads are giving you all of that movement and harmony that can, you know, represent that G chord. It sounds a lot better than just, or this. So when I came up and played this G harmony up here, I went triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And I'm sliding in to reset the triplet. And then I came back down where I was, where I'm gonna bar strings 1 and 2 on that 3rd fret, but then watch this. It's got that Robert Johnson kind of vibe. And all I'm doing to create that is I'm keeping the bar there on the 3rd fret, but I'm coming up to the flat 7, this note, right? So that's the 6th fret 2nd string. Come down to the 5th string, and then back to that 6th string. But I love playing that harmony because it's just so easy to get at, and I just connect it all back to this little triad. All right, so now the song is going to go to the 4 chord, which would be the C. And this is kind of really the only part in this whole thing where I actually play a chord and not a harmony. And what I did there was I came to this. So I played a C7. And here's how I want you to think about the C7 and visualize it. Here's your C chord using the A shape, right? Well, think of your A shape in 1st position. And if I said to play an A7 down here, what would you do? You go, oh yeah. Well, you could do the same thing here. There's your C, there's your C7. So I'm just trying to stay in the same neighborhood here. So we played off the G, and I slid into it. I'm doing a lot of this sliding thing where I take the destination that I'm trying to get at, and I go back 1, fret and slide into it. It's just kind of a little bluesy thing to do. And then, this is key, I use my pinky to come up here to the 8th fret 1st string and hit this C note up here. And the reason I do that, one, it sounds kind of cool. You hear that in the blues a lot. But the other reason for that is it's actually a functional thing. It gives me an anchor to know where to reset my hand and play up in this position. That's kind of how I think of it. So if I'm playing a C7 here, I'm going to grab this so that I can reposition my hand. That's where my bar would be if I was going to play my C chord using the E shape, right where I put my pinky. So I can make that little triad like we did here. Hopefully a light bulb's going off and you're going, oh, now I can do the 4 chord stuff. All that stuff that we did down here off of this triad, we can now do it to represent the 4 chord. And I played something like this. Using those same harmonies we talked about down here for the G chord. Sliding into it, right? There it is. Strings 2 and 3, strings 1 and 2. There's the 4, there's its 4 chord, right? So it's always the 4 chord of the chord you're playing, not of the key of the song, but of the chord you're playing. So that's the little idea there. So now we would go from the 4 chord back to the 1 chord, and I came down here and played. Now this, let me show you that. So we're gonna start with that same harmony that we started the song with, right? Right out of this little triad here. And I'm doing triplets. I'm going down, up, down with the right hand, but string 3, 2, 3. So it's like And actually it starts with a little slide. Now watch this. I'm going to slide it up 1, 2, 3 frets. That same shape, notice my finger shape doesn't move. Slide it up 2 frets, back down, and then back to where we started. So it's like this. Now, if you're wondering what's going on there, if I were to only play the minor pentatonic scale using just the second string, remember that's one of the notes in this harmony. We're not going to play the third string, just the second string. Listen to this. This will be the minor pentatonic scale. Right? I'm playing the notes of the minor pentatonic scale with one string. Now I can drag that third string along for the ride and get these harmonies that way. It's not something you want to do a whole lot of, but it sounds great in certain spots. All I'm doing is playing the minor pentatonic scale, but just dragging that third string. So when I was playing this, that's where that idea is coming from. So after that, we go back into the 4 chord and then sliding in just like we started with. And then watch this. I did that for the 5 chord, for the D. Now let's look at what's going on here. This is super easy once you see this. D chord using the A shape, right? Top part of the A shape. That triad. You've played that triad before, right? Look at strings 1 and 2. That's all we need. That can represent my D chord. I can slide into that harmony. Here, I can use it for the 4 chord. Right? But here it is for the 5 chord. This is my D. And then watch this. If I come down, if I'm going to hold this second string on the 7th fret, I'm going to come down to the 3rd string on the 7th fret and play that. And all I'm doing is I'm walking from my D note and I go down 2 frets. Remember, if you take your root note and you go down 2 frets this direction, you're playing its flat 7. So that's a D. That will be the major 7. There's the flat 7. And when I play that flat 7, I get a D7. That's a D7 sound, especially when I'm playing it along with another note and getting the harmony. And so that makes sense if you think about like the chord shape. That would be like, here's my D chord using the A shape. Here's one way to voice a D7 in that same spot. Where we've got the bar in the 5th fret, and then you got 7th fret, strings 2 and 4. You may have learned to play a 7 chord that way. But if you look at those notes then on strings 2 and 3, it's those notes. So you can walk down to that. So take that information and bundle it into a little harmony idea that's off of this triad. Now you can do that anywhere in any key. So I did that for the 5 chord. And I did the same thing, just repeated the idea for the 4 chord. Why not, right? It sounded good enough. So let's just repeat it. Plus it kind of emphasizes the point. So when you're sitting around practicing this, just remember that idea. Try and use that in something else too. Take another jam track from another thing and see if you can work that little idea, that little harmony idea out. And then to conclude this part 1, we'd go back to the G chord, just like we started with strings 2 and 3. And then watch this. A little classic turnaround, little walk down thing. And all I'm doing is I'm coming back up. Think about this triad, right? We started with this, and then I came up to this one using the D shape, that G chord using the D shape. If I played strings 3 and 1, that's all I need. So I can just take those 2, walk it down again, and then back to my triad down here. Now I did different fingers when I did it. I used these 2. And then the last thing I'll show you is the 5 chord there. And it's just a D, it's actually a D9 the way I'm playing it. And that's what it looks like. But I started it a half step up. walked it in. And now the song is going to repeat. We'll go through the same chord structure, but using some different ideas. Actually, when you get to the part 2 video, you're going to see a ton of repetition. I'm going to repurpose a lot of these ideas. You know, that way it's not like you're learning a whole new set of stuff. Most of what we cover in the part 2 video, we've covered in this video, but I want you to see them in different ways and how like, you know, some of these ideas like the top part of the A shape, how would that work for the G chord and so forth. So anyway, that's going to be all covered in part 2. If you like this video, if you've got some value in it and you've just had some breakthroughs in this, please leave a comment. I always appreciate those. I think it's helpful for other people to, you know, to see that too. Just your idea might be the idea that sparks somebody else's, and so I'm always trying to encourage that. So please leave a comment and let me know, you know, if you like this and you've had any breakthroughs. If anything is unclear, you can let me know that too. I do read through all of them. Okay, folks, we'll see you in part 2.